Hello ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to another Star Wars Outlaws video. Today we have to talk about the controversy surrounding this game.
So uncivilized.
Yes, unfortunately, much like many Star Wars projects nowadays, it's landed itself in more controversy. This time because of a 10-minute gameplay feature that IGN released, where the game looked, to some people, unfinished, unpolished, and somewhat dull.
Thanks.
But like many other criticisms with Star Wars nowadays, is it actually worthy criticism or is it just a bit of an overreaction? Personally, I'm leaning more towards overreaction because I've seen a lot of the gameplay. I've had to edit a lot of videos on this game already. I've watched raw gameplay. I've seen devs talk about it. I've seen interviews. And honestly, I'm still really excited about this game. And in my honest opinion, that 10-minute gameplay feature that IGN put out was a bit of a misstep by Ubisoft, because if you look at literally any other gameplay video on this game, all the different features that are going to be in it, the side quests, the main quests, all those kind of things, the game looks really promising. Jedi Survivor and Jedi Fallen Order were really solid games, but they were about the Jedi. You were wielding a lightsaber, you were using force powers. We haven't had a game like this in such a long time where we're just some random smuggler out in the galaxy trying to make money, trying to survive, using a blaster. There's nothing really special about us. We're just a normal person. And K-Vess is exactly that. She's sort of starting from scratch. She's very new to the underworld of Star Wars, which means everything that she sees for the first time will feel refreshing and from a new perspective that we might not have seen before. Obviously, we've seen Tatooine a million billion times, but for K-Vess, it actually could be for the very first time, I'm fairly sure. And gameplay-wise, it looks solid. It's not often we get a Star Wars open world game. I know the whole marketing shtick of this game has been it's the first Star Wars open world game, and whilst that's technically right for the kind of game that they're making, you could make the argument that Star Wars The Old Republic, Knights of the Old Republic, Star Wars Galaxies, all those games are open world. However, two of the three I just mentioned are MMOs. So in terms of single player RPG-esque Star Wars games, this is one of the first. And there's so many layers to this game that I think people are forgetting when they look at this 10-minute gameplay feature from IGN. Again, I swear it's just a really bad example of the game, because if I look at literally any other video, I'm like, yeah, this is really good. So I'm confused why they chose IGN to show this video and this certain mission. Obviously, there are going to be missions which are a bit underwhelming. This is probably one of them. You have to go into a Sarlacc pit, grab a Sarlacc tooth, goes a bit wrong. You have to steal it back from some criminals, deliver it, and you get your laser turret on the ship. But I can guarantee you that this game is going to be full of content. We've already seen you sneak into Imperial facilities. We've seen you sneak into criminal syndicate facilities. We've seen ship combat, we've seen speeder gameplay, we've seen a few of the different worlds that you'll be able to explore in Star Wars Outlaws, which is just, again, really cool. They're not downsizing it to just one planet. The main planet that you'll be on is Tashara, which is an original planet made by Massive Entertainment, but we'll be able to go to planets like Tatooine, Kijimi, Akiva, and Canto Bight, and there might even be more that they haven't told us about, but these will be the key planets that we'll be playing throughout Star Wars Outlaws. So I think another reason why this specific gameplay feature didn't really pique anyone's interest is because, one, it was on Tatooine. It's a planet we've seen a million times, and it was quite a basic questline with very basic features on show. But if you look at some of the other gameplay where, you know, there's combat in Kijimi, one of the very first gameplay features we got to see on Tashara, where you had this dialogue with an Imperial officer and then you were wanted and you had to make it onto your ship and get out of the planet. You had shuttles landing with Imperial troopers on the planet to come after you. You got into your ship, you got out into space, and there were TIE fighters after you. There'll be mini games like Sabacc and all that kind of stuff. There's just so much more to this game that I find it really weird that people have such an issue with this particular gameplay feature, that they're basing almost their entire opinion on the game on this specific 10 minutes of gameplay. Even though we've had countless other videos with gameplay showing many of the other features that, again, look really promising and a lot of fun. Now, is this game actually going to be a masterpiece? Is it going to be the next big thing? Probably not. From what I've heard, it's like a 7, 8 out of 10 probably. That's kind of the potential of this game, which is not a bad thing. It's a solid Star Wars game that we don't get often, in a setting that we do not get often. I think the last Star Wars thing where we got criminal syndicates and the underworld of Star Wars was the Solo movie, and that was years ago. So we're getting to experience a new story in the criminal underworld of Star Wars on planets that we might not be familiar with gameplay that looks solid for the kind of experience they're going for. There's going to be a reputation system. There's going to be various characters that you get to meet to skill up and unlock new things. Like, you know, this IGN video showed that you get a laser turret from this Jawa, but it's already been confirmed that you can meet characters like Lando Calrissian to unlock new abilities. What Lando specifically is going to teach, I have no idea, but it's cool that we get to see these kind of things and experience them, maybe not as a character that we've made, which I know a lot of people wanted. I, for one, actually like the look of Kay Vess, and I think she might be a really promising character in the Star Wars universe. From the little we've seen of her dialogue and story, it looks interesting. And there'll be other characters that we'll meet along the way that will explore the galaxy with Kay Vess, like that commando droid with a trench coat, which is wicked, like this Kyle Katarn looking dude. So I think it's really unfortunate that there's so much negativity around the game, especially after this 10-minute gameplay video that IGN put out. And it almost feels like people are looking for something to hate. I'll briefly mention Star Wars Acolyte. From the get-go, that show was cursed. People were going into it looking for something to hate. They definitely found it because it was quite an underwhelming show, but a lot of the issues people had with that show I found quite odd. I had issues with the pacing, the editing, the story felt muddled, the protagonists were quite uninteresting compared to other characters in the series, whereas people's issues with it was fire in space, which we've definitely seen before in Star Wars, amongst other things that people decided to hate for whatever reason.
An apprentice who doesn't know their master.
The Sith have been extinct for a millennium.
But the reason to bring up Acolyte is because people were obviously going into that wanting to hate it, and they got what they wanted. And I feel like people are doing that with Star Wars Outlaws. But in the grand scheme of things, I think genuinely this might be a bit of a loud minority. I hope. And what I would like people to do is actually just give it a chance, actually play the game for yourself if you want, or just wait for gameplay to come out as the game comes out, watch someone play through it, decide whether it's going to be for you or not. Because it's obvious that a lot of love has gone into this game from the devs, and a lot of the gameplay we've seen looks promising, so I think it's just time to be optimistic rather than pessimistic about a Star Wars project for once. Because if we hate this thing too much for unnecessary reasons, and it actually turns out to be a really good game but underperforms in the market, we might not see anything like it again for a long time. But of course, this is open for discussion. Let me know in the comments down below what you think of Star Wars Outlaws. Specifically, what do you think of the 10 minutes of gameplay IGN released on Tatooine with this mission? Do you find it weird that this was something that was so negatively received? Have you seen other gameplay and actually think it's quite promising? Let me know in the comments down below. Like the video if you enjoyed it. Subscribe for more Star Wars Outlaws content. Become a member today if you want to support me in another way. You get early access to videos and live streams. And thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Bye!